Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Fishing with Kagan. Today's video is something totally new for me. Not just a different lake or a new spot to cast, this is a whole different world of fishing. This is my first attempt at offshore fishing. And while it technically falls under the fishing category, the truth is, it feels like stepping into an entirely different sport. The rods and reels are heavier, and the rigs are completely different from anything I've ever tried. From catching your own bait before you even think about chasing the big stuff, to dropping lines hundreds of feet down, offshore is a whole other game. I went into this trip with zero experience and a ton of excitement, ready to soak up everything I could. And as I learned, out here, the learning curve is about as big as the fish. We started the morning climbing aboard our friend Bill's boat. There was a lot of firsts waiting for me today. The biggest one? Getting offshore for the very first time and finding out if being miles from land with nothing but water on the horizon was going to turn me green or not. I'd be lying if I said that the thought wasn't already sitting in the back of my mind. But before I could even think about chasing the big fish, we had to handle the first step in the offshore playbook, catching bait. Out here, the food chain is very literal. To catch a big fish, you start with a small one. Some people use artificials, some troll with dead bait, but today's strategy was all about fishing with live bait. And that meant breaking out something I'd only ever seen hanging in tackle shop aisles, the sabiki rig. If you've never used one before, it's a monofilament leader with 6 short branch arms tied off it, each tipped with a tiny gold hook dressed in a little flash of mylar. That shimmer is irresistible to bait fish, and when you drop it down into the school, you never know. Sometimes you'll pull up one, and sometimes all 6 hooks come up dancing. I wasn't quite ready to handle the delicate and very tangle-prone rig on my own yet, but I jumped right into unhooking duty. Using a simple but genius little tool called a de-hooker, I learned to pop the fish free without ever touching them, or getting my fingers tangled in the hooks. Bill pointed out a classic offshore sign, birds working overhead. Where the birds are, there's bait below. The water already felt a little rougher than I expected, but with the shoreline still in my sight, my stomach wasn't staging a mutiny. Yet. Every once in a while, when you're aiming for bait fish, you hook into something a little bigger. That's exactly what happened when Jerry pulled up a Spanish mackerel. Unfortunately, these fish are infamous for bleeding like crazy, and with the way this one was thrashing, I jumped in for cleanup duty, helping scrub down the sea deck and getting rid of the mess. Once things looked ship-shape again and the live well was brimming with bait, it was time to make our move. My first time offshore felt like riding a water-based roller coaster. I didn't lose my lunch, but let's just say my stomach wasn't sending me thank you cards either. Jerry swears it's all in my head, that stressing over rough water is the fastest way to make yourself seasick. Maybe he's right. We picked our first spot, dropped baits, and nothing. Moved to another spot, still nothing. The water was gorgeous, an unreal shade of blue. The sky was crystal clear, but the fish, totally silent. All day, I only had 2 connections. The first one lasted seconds before the fish broke me off. The second was a brutal battle. 4 solid minutes of tug-of-war before the line snapped again. Experienced offshore anglers will know that sometimes fights with big fish can last even hours. So 4 minutes was really nothing. But for me, the first time fighting something big like that, I was worn out. And here's the first hard truth I learned about offshore fishing. It's a bigger gamble. You invest more time, more effort, more money to get out there, and even after hours of fishing, you might come back empty-handed. So we did what any reasonable anglers would do. We packed it in, called it a day, and decided we'd be back out here again for round 2 the very next week.
We got cement trucks coming up and down.
A week later, we were back. Same crew plus one, same boat, but with a fresh dose of determination. Offshore had humbled me the first time, but today felt different. The morning air was crisp, the water a little calmer, and as we cleared the inlet, I couldn't help but think, this is it. That quiet mix of excitement and revenge was settling in, like we had unfinished business with the ocean. Bill fired up the engines, and we made a beeline for the bait grounds. Sabiki rigs hit the water, and almost immediately, the well started filling up with fresh, shimmering baits. Even the way the rods were bending on the bait fish felt better this time. We weren't just out here to try offshore fishing again. We were out here to catch dinner. With an extra angler on board this trip, the stakes were a little higher. We needed more bait than last time, and fast. Offshore fishing burns daylight quicker than you'd think, and nobody wants to waste prime hours with an empty live well. The spot Bill picked this time was practically alive with movement. You could see flashes under the surface as schools of baitfish darted throughout the water, and every drop of a sabiki rig came back with a surprise. Sometimes it was just one or two glittering fish shaking at the end of the line. Other times, all 6 hooks were dancing with life. While the sabiki rig looks deceptively simple, a main leader line with 6 short branches ending in tiny gold hooks, the real challenge is keeping it from tangling, especially when multiple fish hit at once and the rig starts twisting in every direction. I was still perfecting my role in the process, unhooking the bait and getting them into the live well quickly before they could flop themselves into trouble. The de-hooker tool became my best friend, letting me keep my hands clear of sharp hooks while working fast. And there is a speed element here. Offshore fishing has this constant hum of urgency, like you're racing the clock even when you're not. Every wasted second is a missed opportunity. Before long, the live well was bubbling with silvery, green, darting baits, each one a potential ticket to the kind of fish that had broken me off a week before. Oh, you tried to escape. Oh! Just when you thought he was gone. With bait secured, the mood on deck shifted. It was game time. With the sun climbing higher and the horizon wide open ahead of us, we pointed the bow towards deeper water. And this time, we were ready for whatever bit back. Last trip, I'd let my mind get too wrapped around the idea of being offshore. No land in sight, open water in every direction. But this time, I didn't have a chance to overthink it. Almost immediately, Bill's rod bent hard, the drag sang, and he was hooked into a beautiful mahi. This fish wears many names: dolphin, dorado, mahi, but whatever you call it, it's one of the ocean's most stunning creatures. Neon blues, electric greens, and flashes of gold. They're also one of the fastest growing fish in the world. At just 3 to 5 months old, the one Bill had on the line was already capable of reproducing. The thing about mahi is, where there's one, there's usually more. They travel in packs, and if you can keep them around the boat, the bite can turn chaotic in the best way. We scrambled to get our baits back out, dropping them right in front of the school we could see darting just around us. Then, it was my turn.
Let him eat it. Yeah. Yeah, they're whacking you. Let him take it when he gets it. Let him take it. Don't restrict him. All right, now close the bell and set the hook. Rip it! There you go.
Oh.
Walk back, all the way back. Let her under. Go. Don't let it go loose. Got it? Stay with it. Stay out of it. All right, Keith, you're getting hit
for her.
right now, Keith. They're on yours.
Come around this side.
Now they're hit.
Take it. Hold on. Okay, you ready? What we're gonna do is you get it close, and don't. There you go. Get close right here, and then flip them at the last second. Ready? Like this. When he comes close.
Woo!
So you get it so it's the line's taut right on the surface, so that when you sling him up,
That's awesome.
he gets into the boat.
Yeah.
Trust me, I have a million times lost.
The adrenaline on the boat was through the roof. 2 mahi on ice, and everyone was riding that high. When the dolphin bite cooled off, we turned our attention to the depth finder. Bill spotted a promising mark, and we decided to see what was lurking below. We rigged live bait with heavy weights to punch through the current and get them down fast. Almost as soon as they hit bottom, rods started bending. What came up were some of the most stunning red snapper I'd ever seen. Flashes of crimson, silver, and pink shimmering in the sunlight. A quick check on the regulations reminded us that snapper wasn't in season here, so out came the venting tool. We worked quickly to release them in good shape, sending those beauties back to the deep where they belong. There it is.
Big snapper. Big old snapper.
It was a day of firsts for me. Not only my first mahi, but my first red snapper. And I have to say, these fish are even more gorgeous in person than any photo or video could capture. We definitely found a hot pocket of red snapper. Every bait we dropped got hammered. Either they were stripping the hook clean or coming up flashing red and silver. At the start of the day, with the live well packed, I'd thought, there's no way we're gonna go through all this bait. But by the end, we were down to just a handful. That told me we'd been throwing the exact snack the fish wanted. It was a totally different game from what I'm used to. No working the lure, no giving it action, just drop the live bait, let it settle, and wait for the thump.
What the fuck?
At one point, Jerry hooked into something that fought so hard he swore it was a shark. That's usually our cue to move spots, and with the sun starting to dip, we decided we'd done more than enough damage for the day. Back at the dock, there was still work to do. Fish to clean, gear to rinse, and a boat to scrub. Bill walked me through cleaning Dolphin for the first time, and I learned every species has its own quirks when it comes to filleting. Of course, curiosity got the best of us, so we checked the stomach contents to see what they'd been eating. Always good intel for next time. You know, when you think about fishing, you picture that moment when the rod bends and you're fighting the fish. But there's a whole other part of the trip that's just as important, and that's taking care of your catch when you get it back in. One thing I've learned, whether it's freshwater or offshore, is that fish care starts the moment you land it. Getting it on ice right away, keeping it cold, that's what makes the difference between good fish and restaurant quality fish on your plate later. And there is nothing like knowing the meal you're about to eat was swimming in the ocean just a few hours ago. It's also just satisfying to learn this skill. The first few times you do it, it's awkward. You're figuring out where the bones are, how much pressure to use, but the more you do it, the more it becomes muscle memory. Plus, you start to appreciate the fish even more when you've put the time into preparing it yourself from start to finish. We ended up with some perfect fillets off this mahi, and I can already tell you they're going to be on the grill tonight. A little butter, lemon, and maybe some blackened seasoning. That's going to be the perfect way to end a day like today. And, you know, one of the coolest parts about going offshore is realizing how alive the ocean really is. Out there, you're in the middle of this massive, moving world that's constantly shifting. Bait fish flashing under the surface, birds diving, and sometimes a shadow passing by that you just know is something huge. It's humbling in a way. You're just this tiny speck floating over miles of deep blue water, chasing whatever the ocean decides to give you that day. And whether you're reeling in your dream catch or just soaking in the view, it's impossible not to feel grateful for being out there. Days like this stick with you a long time after the fish are gone. This trip was a huge step up from my first offshore attempt. We left with mahi in the cooler, new species checked off my list, and some unforgettable moments burned into the memory. Thanks for watching to see how my first time offshore turned out. I'd love to hear your offshore stories in the comments, how your stomach handled it, and what your favorite target species is. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Until next cast.